Welcome, 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 everyone. I'm Dr. Venus, your hot mess millionaire, and I welcome you to George or Breonna, whose life mattered most. And let me go ahead and say a couple of things so I don't get lynched. All right. This is not a divisive conversation between Black men and Black women. That is not what this is about. Okay. So please don't start no stuff. Don't bring me no smoke. Won't be no fire. All right. Second thing is important to note that police murder is not good for anybody of any race, of any gender. Um, there's nothing positive about it, and there's no hierarchy to pain. Okay, so that please let me help you understand before we get up into this teaching that this is not about blame or trash and gender or any of those things. It's not, look, come on now, we're above that. As far as I'm concerned, those are very, very um, emotionally immature conversations in the context of what we're living through right now. Okay. So please spare me and you that particular fight because I don't feel like coming for people today. Just so you know, would like to just not to have to go through that. And so let me just get that together. So I think I just want to get that in. And I'm going to tell you what we're doing today. So go ahead and please subscribe, share, tag. Um, I'm going to teach today. And my intention is to create a context with regard to the history of slavery in terms of the Black female body being disposable. Okay. I'm clear that the Black male body has been disposable. I've talked about that in detail multiple times. I am purposefully putting my attention in my brain on Breonna. That is an intentional choice, and I will tell you why. The people, the police officers who killed her, have not been brought to justice. And if you think about the momentum we took when it came to Aubrey, it took months. I think it was like 2 months before that turned because we got up under it. Do you see what I'm saying? And I'm not feeling the energy of that kind of fervor for Breonna that we had for Aubrey. And his stuff was like 2 months before George. Do you see what I'm saying? So please partner with me in confronting white supremacy in terms of policing, in terms of media, and in terms of how we value each other. That is not a slam, that's an insight. 3/5 of a man was about men, not women. Okay. So I just need to make sure before I go up in this that we're on the same page. All right. Because I don't want to have to fight with you about this. I don't want to have to fight you. Okay. And I'm being light about it because it's a deep conversation, but I don't want to uh it's always a challenge. It's always it's always a challenge to tell the truth. Okay. It always is. And there's a lot of ways to take it out of context. And my request is that you don't. Okay. So I think that's all I have to say. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go right into the teaching. Okay. And I'm going to tell you what I want to go over the resources. Now, this is important. I'm going over the resources intentionally this time because they're really important. And then I'll get into my teaching points toward the end of the conversation. All right. And just to make it real plain, what we're dealing with is the historical context, the historical wound of our white supremacy and Black female bodies being disposable, being turned into the cash cow, the beast of burden, the scapegoat, or how do I put it? I write it down so I don't forget it. Yes. Workhorse, scapegoat, cash cow, abuse the burden. Okay. And I'll get into that. But first, let's go over the resources. The main one the one I want to make sure you really hear about is I found this new resource called Voting Rights by State for Convicted Felons. This is good stuff because it breaks down what each state, the laws that you would have to know about in order to vote if you or someone you love has a felony. All hope is not lost. This is good stuff because we get enough of our people who have gone to jail, who have felonies vote. That makes a difference. I'm very excited about this link. You may want to look at it just so you know, in case you bump into somebody who has gone to jail. They may not even know they have the option to vote, because that's one of the things you get penalized with, right? You can't, your voice gets gone, right? So I just want to make sure, but you can pay taxes, whole nother level. But I want to make sure you see that. And also register online to vote. All of this talk, everything I'm doing right now is to drive traffic to you having the people at your church, your sorority, and your women's group, at your networking meetings, your virtual whatever, register to vote. So when it comes November 3rd, we are an army. Okay. So check through. I had to check and register to vote, and turned out I had moved and I need to get my stuff current to where I live now. So don't take it for granted. Get ahead of the curve. Okay. And I'm mailing in my vote. That's intentional because I'm not playing with these people. All right. So those are the 2 action items. Now, the articles I did things in 4s this time, okay? And there's 4 articles around Breonna, okay? The one's from the New York Times, one from CNN, one from Huffington Post. And then I had one from Huffington Post around the death of Tanisha, okay? Because of mental illness. And I don't think we talk about enough we're starting to talk about mental illness in the Black community more, and I'm good with it. Some of those of you who know, I have PTSD. Okay. And some people will say I have anxiety disorder, and some people will say I'm high functioning autistic, and I'm dyslexic. Okay. So, I'm a hot mess on a good day. So I have a real commitment that, just because you learn different and do different doesn't mean that you should be ostracized. Or penalized. So I really wanted to include something around mental health. Okay. And I know Taraji P. Henson is on that. So I think that's great. Okay. I also included some resources. This is good stuff. There is a movie on HBO called Say Her Name, The Life and Death of Sandra Bland documentary. Girl, bro, hit up on it. The chick was a firecracker. She could have been my twin. You know what I mean? So check up on it because it tells us stuff. It gives you some data that you don't get from the news. Okay. And then there's also Say Her Name campaign. Okay. Fill the void. Lift your voice, say her name. It is they have a beautiful manifesto on the first page that it moved me. It just makes me feel I'm proud to be a Black woman. Right. And so we need to be protected. But they also did this wonderful report. It's called the African American Policy Forum. Okay. And they break down, Say Her Name, resisting, it's number 3. It's in the notes. The African American Policy Forum. It's like a little cheat sheet, okay? And it talks about different kinds of ways Black women have been brutalized by the police, sexually, home and domestic stuff, police shootings, driving. It's comprehensive in a good way. All right. So these 2, 3, and 4 go together. So the one that says must read, that's the one you need to really check up on. All right. And then I have all Black lives matter. Black trans women murdered by the police. This is huge. And it is so invisible because one of the things that happens automatically, hear me when I tell you this, that happens automatically is that when people hear, or when we say Black lives matter, what is conjured up in the psyche of American character is Black, straight, cis men. Okay. And I want you to be very clear that even if we're saying Black lives matter, that does not account for the subcultures inside of Black culture that are not automatically accepted. I'm queer identified. Y'all know that. I think I'm great. That doesn't mean other people do. Okay. So I wanted to include four resources around, or the four different resources around Black trans women. Notice I didn't say Black trans men. Black trans women getting killed by the cops. Holler and preach, all right? Because we don't talk about sexuality the same way we talk about race within the culture. And it's just as valid. When we're dealing with patriarchy, when we're dealing with masculinity, with Black men having certain privileges, even though we don't think they're big, there's a Black male body is read differently than a Black female body, even if it's queered. And if it's queered, it's subject to a different kind of violence. I think someone, was it Desiree, got dismembered? So, I mean, they literally cut her body up, okay? So that's important to note, because if you don't know what's happening and you're only looking from, not even intentionally, a heterosexual normative through a straight Black male lens, even if you don't know it, anything that doesn't fit that lens, you feel like is a problem. It's like, oh, you're distracting from the race. You're distracting from the movement. We went through this in the 60s. When Black women start talking about Black men beating up on them in the 60s, they were like, oh, you're being divisive. How is telling the truth divisive? How is that divisive? How is it divisive to say, oh, I'm speaking up, you don't like it, and you beat me. I'm supposed to be quiet? And this is a gender thing. So we have to include gender in the conversation, and sexuality, and class. Okay, I identify as a Black woman, and I actually love being a Black woman. Okay, I don't disappear my sexuality because, like, one, I can't, and two, it's just as important to me as the identity of being Black. It's called intersectionality. Crenshaw, Professor Crenshaw, what is it? Oh God. I hate when I mess up people's names when I want to say it, it won't come out right. Her name is Crenshaw. Hold on a second. I think it's Kimberly Crenshaw. She's famous. She's amazing. She's so smart. She created the term intersectionality, right? And she's a professor, a law professor. And I'm just, let me look it up real quick because I know I have it because I'm a fan. I reached out to her and I wanted to see if she would let me talk to her about this topic. And she's a big deal, man. So her name is Kimberly Crenshaw. Yeah, she's a savage, okay? And she's the co-founder of APP Policy Forum. She's a professor at Columbia Law School and UCLA Law School. And she's just the truth. All right. And she created the term intersectionality. She wrote a book or curated a book called Critical Race Theory that shaped my research while I was at Stanford. So she's just a savage in the best possible way. And she came up with this term of intersectionality, which is the conversion of gender, race, sexuality, and class, and how they all work together. Right. And so when we're looking at the police and Black bodies being dead, and we only speak about Black male bodies, and they're the ones that get the marches, and they're the ones that they become the marketing for the movement. George became the marketing. He became the poster child for the movement, for Black Lives Matter. It wasn't one of the trans women. You see what I'm saying? And I need to say this so I don't have to hear you. I don't want to have you go through extra. I'm clear we watched George be executed. I understand seeing someone get dead is a trauma that we don't get over as a collective or as an individual. I'm clear about that. So please hear me when I say I'm not pitting George against Breonna. Okay, that's not what I'm doing. And I can see how you could see that if you were looking from that perspective. And I can honor that. Not my concern. Okay, what I'm talking to is something bigger. Have you noticed that when we march, I just want you to check up on it. Not just George, but if you look at Eric Garner, if you look at Rodney King, if you look at Emmett Till, if you just go through history and check up on it and feel me on this and breathe through this one, okay, ladies, and the brothers who love us, Black women have been marching and fighting and standing and motivating and mobilizing in major ways all along. We're right there. We're right there on the front line. If you think about, remember Black Panther? Remember that, the movie? And if you think about A Wrinkle in Time, okay, Ava DuVernay did A Wrinkle in Time, and no, Black Panther came out first, okay, and we loved it. Was I can't think of the brother's name right now. If someone remembers it, tell me. I want to say Cooler, but I don't want to mess up his name. Um, uh, the brother who was the director of Black Panther, and I want to say Cooler, but I'm going to mess it up. The director of Black Panther, all right? Did y'all notice how much fervor and passion we got up under Black Panther that we didn't do for A Wrinkle in Time? And A Wrinkle in Time was directed by a woman. It had women leads. You see what I'm saying? So I'm pointing to a bigger conversation than just Breonna and George. I'm pointing to a historical wound where the Black body, the Black female body, is less, not just in the eyes of the law, but in our eyes. I don't know if you can hear that, because it takes something to hear that, okay? But I would like for you to consider something. And I'm asking you a real question. Why is it so much easier for you, Black woman, to fight for him instead of standing for you? Why is that? Why will we fight so hard for him? But when it comes to us, we make it okay. You know what I'm saying? We work it out. We make it, we're so okay with letting our concerns fall away. Do you see what I'm saying? And so it's something I'm asking you to think through, right? I'm asking you to think through something that is not a simple ask, all right? But it's something I want to bring to your attention, because if you look at the movements, start noticing who's organizing them. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm not suggesting that it's not all inclusive. Gay people ran the March on Washington. Look it up. And they never were spoken about because Black people weren't willing to talk about gay people in the 60s. Do you see what I'm saying? It was very aberrant. It wasn't the 20s, now. And I'm not, so I'm not saying that every movement has its sacrifices. And what gets sacrificed is the ports of a people who is considered in some ways a distraction from the greater good. And I say that we do that with our women. I don't think we fight for our women like we fight for our men. I don't think we do. Okay. And I'm willing to be wrong, but if you look at the fervor and the heat, I say it's gendered based. I don't think it's Corona. I think it's gendered. Okay. So with that being said, I want to walk through. So that's All Lives Matter. Then I have the historical stuff that's important. The deafening silence around police violence against Black women and girls. Not just George. Black police departments have 400 years of history of racism. Black women's slavery and the silence of the past. Sexual abuse of Black women during slavery in America. Okay, so I have these different articles, different videos that are really, really valuable. So I encourage you to share this information, share this lesson, share this session, share this show, share this post, share this, so people have access to the information. Okay, and so with that being said, here are the teaching points I want to get into. All right, so historically, Black women, in terms of North American chattel slavery, were not considered human. Let's just start there. We were never considered human. We were always considered savages, a mixture of animal and something else, right? And we were to be tamed and used. And so Black women, enslaved Black women, were socially positioned as the workhorse, scapegoat, cash cow, or beast of burden. All right. And there are 4 social positions that you want to know about, and you'll see them at play even today. Mammy, think of a heavyset caretaker that takes care of white people or takes care. Tragic mulatto, close to white, the prize, they would call them comfort women or fancy girls because they were biracial. And a lot of them ended up, well, a good number ended up in New Orleans as sex slaves because of because they were mixed blood. Okay. Jezebel is hoe, just, video vixen kind of chick. Sapphire, angry Black woman. All right. These are the 4 social positions that Black women occupy. Okay. And because we're positioned that way, we're not positioned as, we're positioned as if we don't feel pain. We're positioned as we can take it. That's the strong thing. We're positioned as sexually promiscuous, which gives anybody, white men, white police, Black men, Latino men, whomever, the right to violate us sexually, to assault us sexually, because we asked for it. And the 4th piece I want to put in is that Black women lie. Now, this is not something we talk about a lot, but a lot of us who've ever been violated, they said we lied. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm glad. But for those of you who do, feel me on this. Black women don't have credibility. So if we say he did that, they'll say, oh, she's lying. She asked for it. She likes it rough. That's what they say, because historically we've been positioned as Jezebels, as harlots, as strumpets, you know what I'm saying, as hoes. And all of that was to dehumanize us, to use our body to create free labor. None of it's true in terms of true character traits. There's some survival strategies in there. But this is what, so when a Black woman gets dead by the police, it's like, well, oh, she's not important enough to even investigate. Oh, she just hung herself. Oh yeah, she just killed herself in the jail cell 3 days after being arrested for a traffic ticket or a traffic violation. Because we don't have the social credibility that even Black men have, even with us. And that takes something to contend with, because if we don't contend with it, Breonna and every Black woman who gets killed by the police, it becomes not as a big a deal as when Rodney King got beat. And I'm clear you can fight me on this and say we saw it, so it's more real. I'm fine with that. But we didn't see Aubrey, not up front. I didn't see it up front, but we campaigned for that for 2 months until it turned. Where are the calls being made? Are you calling? Are you, where's the passion for Breonna's life? How come that's not as important as George's? And if you tell me it is, then show me how it is. Show me how many calls were made on her behalf, not just in between George and Ahmaud. I don't mean sandwich her between 2 Black men. On her own, her life was valuable without them. And I'm clear that it all happened close to at the same time. So I'm not arguing that point. What I'm saying is, historically, Black women's bodies have never fucking mattered. And then throw some queer on it. You know what I'm saying? Throw some gasoline on it. And then you start contending with, oh, okay, God, why is it that we're not making as much noise for Breonna as we did for George? And I don't want you to hear it like a negative. I want you to hear it like an inquiry, like, okay, God, why? Well, why aren't we? And the thing is, I think that we relate to Black women as disposable. That we're not precious. That we're not that we're replaceable. It's sort of like, and this is, breathe through this one. It's sort of like dating. Okay. It's sort of like, okay, well, there's a shortage of Black men, so I'm willing to tolerate a lot in order to be with a Black man. In a Black man position, and this hear it as a social moment. Don't hear it as an accurate testament of everything. I'm just using this as an example. It's like, well, if you don't want me, somebody else will, so I'll treat you any old kind of way as a Black woman. But if a Black man dates a white woman, he doesn't treat her the same way he treats a Black woman. And all of this is tied up in the history of slavery in North America, and is tied up into internalized white supremacy. So it is not an indictment of you personally. I'm talking about a different conversation. I'm talking about a bigger context. And I'm inviting you to look at How is gender playing out in white supremacy? How are we reiterating that Black women's lives are not as valuable as Black men's lives by the way we protest, by our silence, by our willingness to let it go or just let it fall off? You see what I'm saying? And I don't think any of it's intentional. I think it's fatigue. I think Black women, we so tired of fighting. I mean, we march. I mean, who marches for us in a real way that makes change, not just lip service? And so it's, if you start looking at it, like, remember Breonna, don't forget Breonna. We didn't say that with George. We didn't have that language. We didn't say remember George. It was a justice for George. Just listen to the language and listen to the fervor around it. And I don't know how else to express it to you, but you have to look for yourself. And it's okay if you don't see it, but it takes a level of authenticity to look to see that even the way we language the two different cases, they're related to as different. Rest in power, George. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not the same. And that's gendered. It's almost as if, well, let's see if we can get him just, and then we'll get around to you. But that's what I want you to hear, is that's more of it. I believe that if you took Black women out of the equation, this world would fail. It would fall apart. If we took Black women out the Black church, would there be a church with just the men? Just think about it. Let's take Black women out of any institution, education, social work, nursing. Take Black women out and then see how much you need us. Just take us out. If I could have my druthers for one day, I would love for Black women just to walk out of their lives and let people figure it out. Figure it out without me. Let's see how it goes. Then you will understand who we are. And you would understand why Breonna matters. So I'm going to surrender the mic today because I'm hot and I can tell. But I do want you to understand that there is no hierarchy to pain, but there is a call to purpose. There is a way to be gender inclusive, to be gender and all inclusive inside of Black Lives Matter. There is a way it can be done. Okay. It doesn't have to equal the invisible all Black Lives Matter equals everybody matters, but they don't get the same airtime. That doesn't mean it's equal. It's not equal if everybody doesn't get the same equality we're fighting for George. But that requires that we have to be standing for ourselves. We have to stand for Black women like we stand for Black men. And I don't think we do. I don't think Black women fight for Black women like they fight for Black men. Look and see. I'm willing to be wrong, but look in your own life. And I'm going to tell you this. I don't think we stand for ourselves as much as we stand for our men. I think we'll fight harder for the people we love than we fight for ourselves. We'll fight harder for our children than we fight for our own money. And I say that's part of it. That if we don't believe in us, if we don't value us, then how can the world? How can the world value something when we don't value it? I don't know. But that's what I'm thinking today. So I love you in that agape way. And I thank you for hearing me out. I wanted to keep this short. The resources are amazing. I encourage you to look at them, read them, play with them. They're really great. You don't have to do all of them, you know what I mean? But there's some really great ones that I think, sorry, I pushed the button. I have to not push buttons. But that's all I have for now. So I'm gonna surrender mic. Know that you love to beyond measure. My speak system success and the brothers who love us. Please register to vote. And know that I love you. So if you're offended by this word, please share it. Okay. And the resource, even if you if you didn't like the word, the resources are great. Okay. So that's it for now. Know that you love beyond all measure. And until the next time, this is Dr. Venus, your IMS millionaire. Thank you for listening to my word. And goodbye for now.